Hello and welcome to my provocation, and really what I would like to talk about is the changing role and responsibility of the teacher at Banff Academy over the last 3 years. And essentially that's based around the fact that over the last 100 to 200 years, schools have been measured against a very strict set of criteria, which is mainly around examination performance. And as a result, the role of the teacher has been purely centred around making sure that pupils do as well as they can in exams. And albeit that there is nothing wrong with that, however, if you do solely, relentlessly focus, almost obsess over exam performance and attainment, then I believe that in the 21st century we are missing a huge opportunity to help support young people. And the reason I say that, and I can say that with qualification, is by sharing with you some statistics that I have in front of me just now. So for example, there has over the last 25 years been a 70% increase in the rate of depression among young people. 15% of children and adolescents report anxiety which affects them for the rest of their lives. 38% of students spend more than 7 hours a day online, leading them to be feeling miserable, tired, relentless, restless, worthless and tearful. In 2019, 52% increase in the suicide rate of young people. 1,400 young people in Glasgow were admitted to acute wards as a result of self-harm. The number of youngsters who have eating disorders has grown exponentially in the last 5 years. Over and above the health and wellbeing statistics I've just shared with you, there is a prediction that by 2030 there will be 7 million additional workers required who are underskilled for the job requirement for the economy. So if schools are still going to be concerned in making sure that pupils can recall information on a particular day in a particular year of facts that they've learnt almost by rote in a coaching environment, I'm not so sure that our young people are being prepared for life for when they leave school. So I believe as head teacher at this school that we have a responsibility to try and mitigate some of the problems that these statistics provide us with by changing the focus and the role of a classroom teacher. So we have done a few things at Banff Academy to try and help with this situation. The first being one which was born out of the pandemic. We were suddenly, almost overnight, thrown into a situation where young people were at home, alone in many cases, didn't have an adult to talk to, without any guidance or support. And I was determined that at Banff Academy learning would continue throughout the lockdown period. We didn't know for how long we were going to be in lockdown, and we didn't know when we would be coming back. So we had to come up with an idea that would give young people some support. And bearing in mind the statistics that I shared with you, I felt that we needed to provide young people with a touch point, some point of reference or some point of support almost every day during lockdown. So thanks to a field trip to a school in Doncaster called XP, funded by the Wood Foundation, we were able to explore an idea called Crew, which was effectively a small group of children who met with a teacher every single day for half an hour to help discuss their pastoral needs, their learning needs, and basically anything really they wanted to talk about. So at Banff Academy we decided that during lockdown we would introduce something called Squad. And the idea on lockdown would be that at 2 points during each day, apart from a Wednesday, that at 10 o'clock and at 3 o'clock, young people would meet with a teacher or a member of our support staff to just basically check in. And thankfully our colleagues were able and conversant in the use of Teams, and so young people twice a day were able to meet with a colleague who was able to support them and was that point of contact. For us to be able to do that, what I had to do was explain to all of the faculties individually about what the idea of Squad was. And remarkably and really quite overwhelmingly, out of a requirement of needing 64 squads, we actually got 64 colleagues who volunteered. In fact, there were only 3 that didn't. And the idea behind the squad was that you'd have a small number of children, not more than about 12, who would meet twice a day with that member of staff. Each squad was to get its own identity and develop its own unity by having its own squad name. And we supported squads throughout lockdown with a series of different activities. Some of them were head teacher challenges, some of them were challenges to do with physical exercise and sport. And we really wanted to try and create a cohesive unit that was led by a teacher for that period. And then we came back to school, and the consensus was that squad was working really well, and that the role of the teacher in a pastoral sense was very powerful. And so we then decided in August 2021 that squads would be something that we would be a permanent fixture of the school. So for 2.5 hours every week, half an hour every day, at the start of the day, every single pupil at Banff Academy attends squad with their squad leader. They have their own squad room, they decorate it in their own squad style, they have their own squad name, and they follow what we have now introduced, a squad curriculum, which ensures that the outcomes for which we would want those youngsters to achieve are overtaken. The squads are supported by a squad leadership team. So every week the squad leaders and the principal teacher of guidance and the year head will get together to talk about any issues that arise out of squad, which is a really powerful support mechanism and provides the scaffolding for the squad leader that they need. So that changing role from the teacher, the emphasis away from being just a teacher of subject to coach youngsters through, ready for their exams, is one which 63 of our colleagues have taken on board. In addition to that, we have a number of support staff that take squad, and vital to the success of that is the role of the PSA, the Pupil Support Assistant. One of the things that we also changed was that we renamed the PSAs to be called learning coaches, to try and give them a little bit more prestige in the school, and that has subsequently led to them being more respected in school, and they can also support the squad experience as well. So that whole community aspect is there in terms of that the librarian had a squad, our business and community support officer has a squad, so does our MCR coordinator has a squad. So there's definitely a family feeling around supporting squad within school. But that isn't the end of it. As a result of having 63 squad leaders, we were, and with their own identity and different names and so on, it seemed to me that we had almost 63 guidance teachers. So the question was, well, what was the role of the house in the school? Why did we need 5 houses and 5 principal teachers of guidance when we had first level guidance being covered in this kind of way? And in addition to that, for the last 30 years, I've always questioned the validity and the effectiveness of PSE within the curriculum. So those two things together, we decided that we would create more space in the timetable for other things by taking PSE out of the curriculum. And we also took away the houses in the school, because instead of having a principal teacher of guidance looking after a cohort of between 120 and 200 pupils and knowing them to either a lesser or greater extent, we now have 63 potentially guidance teachers looking after a small squad of children who knew them much better. That allowed us to reposition the role of the principal teachers of guidance to take on more specialist roles. So, for example, mental health, working with families, working for careers and working with support services. And allowed them to fulfil what I would call the consultant role. So if I think of the medical analogy, the squad leader would be your GP, the person that you would go to that would capture all sorts of issues that you might have and would be able to give you some sort of general support and advice. Whereby if there was a need for any more specialist type of advice required, that would be referred on to the consultant, which is the guidance teacher. So we moved away from a guidance teacher being responsible for a house, moving over to having responsibility for a year group. And that has worked well, because the guidance teacher then also works alongside the year head, the deputy head teacher for that particular year group, and they work together as a team to support the squad leaders. So that, I feel, has been a success. And then there's this understanding from teachers that they need to get to know youngsters really well and develop really strong relationships with them if we're going to be able to support them under the context of all the health and well-being challenges that we've got. But that wasn't the end of it. One of the other things that we needed to do, which helps strengthen relationships, is to look at the structure of the school day. Now, one of the things that I believe that allows youngsters to become disengaged and distracted from learning, and the consequences of that are behaviour, which means that they're more likely to be using social media, more likely to be spending time online, all of which then subsequently leads to greater mental health and well-being issues, is the fact that they're not engaged with school. So what head teachers, I believe, need to do is to make school far more engaging. So one of the things that we did was that we did away with the 50-minute session, 32 50-minute periods in the week, and replaced them with 15 100-minute sessions. So 3 100-minute sessions a day. And this allows teachers to become much more varied in the learning experiences that young people have. They have to plan their lessons far more carefully because, let's face it, you can't wing a 50-minute lesson. So the experience that a young person has for a 100-minute lesson is, as far as I'm concerned, richer and deeper. Let's face it, when you're watching a film, you don't watch it in 7 chunks, you watch it in one big go. So the immersive experience of learning can be achieved through 100 minutes. And in addition to that, one of the things that we're really quite keen at Banff Academy for young people is to experience what we call learning through the lens, to understand the why of learning and not just the what of learning. And if they are going to understand the relevance of learning, one of the best ways to do that is to experience it through the eyes of a business partner or a voluntary organisation or any partner that can really help the subject come alive. And you can do that in a 100-minute session. It's easier to plan, it's easier to design rather than in a 50-minute block. We have spoken to our colleagues about how they have found the 100-minute session blocks, and it's fair to say it's been a bit of a roller coaster. It's obviously much more straightforward in practical subjects, but in non-practical subjects too, they found that the more immersive element of it and the development and the progression of skills is easier through the 100-minute programme. We took a bit of a risk with our S5 and S6 pupils as well, in that we re-timetabled their curriculum in S5 and 6, in that they only had to attend 2 sessions every day in the morning, giving them every single afternoon and under this new learning model to do with what they wanted. Now, I felt that it was a bit of a risk at the time. However, what that has allowed our senior pupils to do is to take part in volunteering, in part-time work, or peer mentoring and supporting younger pupils, or indeed further study. My idea behind that is that this one-size-fits-all curriculum that we used to have, where a youngster sitting higher would have 5 50-minute periods regardless of the number of subjects they're sitting, regardless of their ability, and regardless of their ability in that particular subject. But by giving youngsters and students in S5 the responsibility to use the afternoons as they see fit, those that need extra time in additional subjects can spend every afternoon doing the subjects that they feel they need the most support in. Or if indeed they want to do other things, for example, foundation apprenticeships, work experience, or work placements, then they can do that in the afternoon. Now, by giving them that trust and that respect, they are able to, I believe, build confidence, resilience, much better. They're not being spoon-fed. They are acting, living, breathing as students would be in higher education. So they've got that space and that time and that capacity in order for them to be able to develop their own confidence, and is good, I believe, for their mental health and well-being. We've also, thanks to the Wood Foundation, been given quite a considerable amount of professional learning in different pedagogy to support young people become more engaged. And remember, it's that link between engagement and mental health and well-being that I'm really concerned about. So project-based learning is a way in which colleagues can work collaboratively over, as it says on the tin, a project that allows young people to be immersed in an extended period of learning over a number of weeks, where they have a product of learning at the end of it, which they can demonstrate as an example of how they have learnt. This is made doable by having the 100 minutes, but it is also another way in which I believe that youngsters can become more engaged with their learning, because they're developing skills of teamwork, of collaboration, of presenting, of resilience and confidence and collaboration, all of which are vital, I think, to filling those spaces for the economy that we talked about earlier on. So project-based learning is in its infancy still at Banff Academy, but that changing role of the teacher, rather than just teaching a subject, coaching them towards an exam, is being replaced by two major things as I see it. One, the pastoral role of a teacher of children, teaching skills but also looking after them 2.5 hours a week if you're a squad leader, but also engaging with project-based learning to make extended tasks, working with other colleagues, using part of your subject knowledge of course, but really focusing in on skills. So to help with that skills development, we have done a considerable amount of work with all of the stakeholders that we have in the Banff Academy community, being parents, businesses, our teachers themselves and our young people, and putting together what we call the school leavers profile. And this gives us a touch point, a beacon if you like, of core skills that we believe that should be the driver for our school. The driver for our school should not be just examination success. It should be the work readiness and the preparedness that young people have for when they leave here. So we've spent over a year putting together the school leavers profile, which we'll use to measure what we're doing in school. We'll use it as a driver to make sure that all of our lessons are relevant and are engaging, and that young people understand that the purpose of that lesson is to develop that particular skill. The purpose of the lesson is not to remember a big long list of facts to be able to recap and regurgitate in a test. And that the purpose of the school leaver profile will be that young people can articulate what they can do when they leave Banff Academy rather than what they know. They will obviously continue to learn knowledge and will be prepared for exams, and attainment is still something that we are very obviously concerned about, but not to the detriment of preparing young people for when they leave school, and also mitigating some of the mental health and well-being issues that I talked about earlier on. So the changing direction of Banff Academy is one that is moving away from relentlessly focused on attainment towards preparing young people for when they leave school, whilst trying to mitigate some of the health and well-being problems that I believe that young people are experiencing as they grow up in 2022. At the end of last session in the summer of 2021, as I normally do, I have a one-to-one with every single member of staff, and I asked every single colleague really what was the main focus and the direction and vision of the school, and only one member of staff said raising attainment. Every single colleague it said to me that they realised that their job was to support young people in terms of promoting their mental health and well-being, making sure that they were work ready when they were leaving school in order for them to have a positive, sustained destination, one that would be sustainable rather than just one that purely relied on qualifications and certification. So that, for me, is the changing role of the teacher in a school in the quarter of the way through the 21st century, and certainly within Banff Academy our teachers recognise that. So I thought no better way to try and articulate to you how important the skills agenda is to pupils at Banff Academy. I thought I would invite 2 or 3 of our pupils to explain to you just exactly how the skills impact on their experience has been over their time at Banff Academy.
I've developed emotional intelligence throughout my years at school. Emotional intelligence consists of empathy and self-reflection. I've learned many characteristics throughout school that I can then use further in life and my career, such as balance. For example, being able to balance school, work and my social life. Another characteristic I've been able to develop is have a good, positive mindset to help me feel good about my life. I've been able to develop these throughout my years at school, through different classes and being a senior school captain and a prefect. All of these skills work together to create positivity towards work and life and increase your overall well-being. By developing emotional intelligence, a person can recognise other people's feelings as well as their own and can manage their own emotions to achieve their set goals.
Throughout my time at Banff Academy, I've used the skill of teamwork in many different situations, such as being an MVP mentor, a prefect and a member of the senior school executive, as well as using the skill in the sporting arena. One of the main subjects I use teamwork in is PE. For example, when I'm playing in a sporting team, I have been able to develop a variety of skills which enable me to be part of a successful team. These are the ability to communicate effectively with my peers, listen to others, encourage teammates, lift spirits, negotiate tasks and get the job done. Out with school, I play for Devonvale FC. Teamwork is a massive part in football, and I know the skills I have developed in school have helped me be a more capable and valuable member of the team.
Communication, in my opinion, is one of the greatest skills a person can have. Personally, I think the person who has the most power in the room is the person who's able to speak for themselves, speak to others, let others know how they feel, and most importantly, what they can contribute to a conversation. Whether it's about school, life, or even what they're going to have for lunch. Throughout school, I learned very quickly that in order to make friends, contribute to classes, and even learn to my fullest, communication was a skill I had to have. By having the skill of communication, I'm able to apply my skills to any crisis I may confront, or even any future job I may have. However, communication is not only being able to speak to each other, it's being able to listen to others and value what they're saying to you. By listening to others, I can create resolutions to situations and come up with ideas together. Listening is just as valuable as speaking to others, as it gains not only respect, but can create things like friendships. As Winston Churchill once said, courage is being able to stand up and speak. Courage is also being able to sit down and listen.
So I'm sure you will agree with me that they are an outstanding testimony to where they have been in terms of understanding how skills have impacted on them. So in summary, what I would say is that the changing role of the teacher at Banff Academy has moved away from this relentless focus on exam preparation and attainment towards looking after young people and developing skills. I've talked about Squad, I've talked about the 100 minutes and the new learning model and the freedom in the afternoon for our senior pupils. I've also talked about project-based learning. And hopefully you'll see that this will have a positive impact on young people, and one of the challenges that we've got is to how we measure that and how we can demonstrate improvement and how we can ensure that there is impact that we can use as evidence of improvement for the school. Because at the moment it's very easy just to use examination data, but what I would like to do is to be able to use other data to demonstrate that we have improved in terms of our skills development. Thank you very much.